Okay. Hello, my divine infinite human beings. If you're joining me live on the StreamYard, okay, I'm got a new channel that I started, Infinite Humans Co-Creating a New Earth. So if you're on the old channel, the Infinite Human Talk Show, please go to the new channel and subscribe, because this will probably be the last live stream that I'll do on the old channel. We're shifting, moving, upgrading, raising our frequency. So please join us there. We're going to have a lot of really neat things as I travel around the planet and talk about new earth communities and visit different places around Europe and in the Yucatan, which I'm on my way to in just a few weeks. So
all right, I'm going to send the open to you. Have a great show.
Okay.
Welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show with Elizabeth Monroy. Over the next hour, you'll learn how you can become part of the new consciousness renaissance by evolving yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, and socially to embrace your true divine infinite nature and become an infinite human and co-creator of the new infinite earth. Now, here is your host, Elizabeth Monroy.
Hello, my divine infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a exciting guest. I am so excited. Professor Spira, sorry, Professor Spira, the author of Healing Systems. But before I get him on here, I just kind of want to set the tone for this because, I know so many people are rewriting their life story to their heroic ascension path and really trying to be all that they can be, the highest emanation of themselves at this time, and create the optimal future. And, we've talked a lot about, colonic science and, the past and present future lives and all the things that are, affecting us as we ascend into our multidimensional nature. And, all that is very important, especially the activations that we're receiving from the sun and, the biosyncing with our Mother Earth that is now ascending through the fail-safe river host program. But I'll tell you, all that is not unless you ground it into your physical body. All right. So ascension is evolving physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and also financially and socially, that we're going to be talking about later. But one of the keys to assimilating these frequencies is detoxing. You have to purge and allow the lower frequencies to leave your system and especially your physical body. And if you're not doing that, you're holding these old frequencies, you're holding on to parasites, not just organic, but also artificial parasites. And so what you need to do is purge them. You have to get rid of them so your body can hold these higher frequencies. And the higher frequencies you have, the more you will be able to have power to manifest the world you live in. So I know a lot of people have to move at their own time with this, but the problem is, sorry, excuse me, what? Sorry, she got out. Okay. But I know people have to move at their own pace with this, and I myself have had to move at my own pace, and I've been a vegan, vegetarian, and gone away from it. And I've just, when I heard Professor Spiro, and then we had Amasol on talking about, her work with rescuing the animals from the slaughterhouses, I just made that shift back, and it certainly has changed my life. It's put me in a higher frequency. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Professor Spiro here, and thank you so much for your wonderful book and all the work you're doing, and your inspiration. Just your voice is very inspiring. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you could start, I know you're eclectic. You do so many different things. You're a musician. You're a, you've been redone the work of Professor Arnold Ehret in your book, okay? And you've been creating and growing your mucus-free community for many, many times. So could you talk to our guests a little bit about just who you are and tell us more about you?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm Professor Spira, and I've practiced something called the Mucusless diet healing system for over 22 years. And before I started practicing this system, I was very, very sick. At my heaviest, I was over 300 pounds. I had been on pharmaceutical medications since I was a young child. Doctors told me that I would have to be on these medications for the rest of my life. I suffered from chronic migraine headaches almost every day. I used to go to the nurse's office. They would keep some Advil and Tylenol there for me. And almost every day I would get a hall pass to go to the nurse's office, take a pill, lay down for 20 minutes and go back to class. I would walk around the school with boxes of tissues, blowing my nose all the time. I had cold and flu-like symptoms all the time, fevers, bronchitis, really bad constipation, you name it. So just really bad condition. And growing up, my mother was very sick. So she was in and out of the hospital and nursing homes all the time. And so I was raised by my grandmother and my aunt primarily. And I kind of created that mother-son bond with my grandmother. But when I was 10 years old, she unexpectedly passed away. And that really threw my world upside down. A week after my grandma passed away, my mother had a massive heart attack. She ended up having a triple bypass surgery and was in the hospital. Soon after that, the doctor came in, told her they would have to amputate both of her legs from the knee down because her feet started to get black and gangrenous. And then after another year, she passed away. So growing up, being in this environment of such suffering in these hospitals and nursing homes, I just felt like this is not normal. This is not how humans are supposed to function and operate. And as I got older, I started to go on a journey to see if I could find the answers, not only to human disease or a so-called cure for human disease, but answers on why humans suffer the way that they do. And that path led me to be a musician and to use music and learning how to control vibration as a pathway into this information, and studied religions of the world and philosophies and all. Anytime somebody was talking about human suffering or the state of humanity, health, I studied these things. And that led me to a relationship with a good friend of mine named Willie Smart, aka Brother Air, who's a great drummer. And at the time, I was a freshman in college at University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, and I met him out at jam sessions, and we would see each other playing music. And he was, older than me. And one day we were at this jam session at a place called Chez Nora, and it was in between. They had this buffet of all this food and the free food for the musicians. So I had went and filled up a plate of all this chicken wings and then whatever, all this mess. And I'm sitting there eating it, and Willie's just giving me this look like he can't not say anything anymore. He can't hold back any longer. He's going to have to tell us something. And he started telling us about the mucusless diet healing system, which he had practiced for, at that point, over 20 years. And I'm listening to him talk about it, and it just starting to really blow my mind. And I'm really feeling that energy. Like, this is what I've been looking for. This is actually what I've been searching for in terms of giving me answers that I'm satisfied with in terms of the foundation of human suffering, the foundation of human illness. So after that meeting, I read the book, and 6 months later, I started practicing this diet, this system. And 6 months later, I lost 100 pounds. I overcame all of the ailments that I was dealing with. They had diagnosed me with sleep apnea. I got off of the CPAP unit, got off of all the pharmaceutical medications, no longer had daily migraine headaches, no longer had constipation and bloody stools because it would come out rock hard with like razor blades were in my stools. All of that was gone. And I know the folks listening might not be able to see this, but I have some before and after pictures here where you can see I was on this side here, I was about 300 pounds. So you can see I'm all plump
Wow.
and just bloated looking. And then on this was a year later. So that's a year after I practiced the Mucusless diet healing system. This is no Photoshop. These pictures were taken from, I was a resident advisor at the University of Cincinnati. And so this was from my ID, which I wish I still had. My wallet was stolen years ago. So the originals of those are gone. At least I have the pictures. But yeah, so once I'd read the book, I knew that this was what I was looking for, that this was why humans suffer so much, at least on the physical plane. But the principles that Arnold Ehret talks about, the vitality equals power minus obstruction, which maybe we'll talk about more later, that understanding of constipation, that not only applies to the physical body, that applies to your mind and your spirit. If you're spiritually constipated, if you're mentally constipated, you're not going to function well. You're not going to be what you're supposed to be, and you're probably going to suffer as a result. So this was the key for me. This was like the missing link of all humanity, that for whatever reason, when it comes to food and diet and healing oneself and the practice of fasting, fruits and vegetables, it's very simple, but we make it complex because we have gotten so far away from these natural principles. But once I found this, I was like, thank you. It's just gratitude, because I truly don't believe I'd be here. I think I would have probably not made it to my 42nd birthday if I hadn't got on this path.
Thank you. What an amazing story. And I just want to take a minute to kind of orient that whole thing, because I know many of you, I mean, a lot of you experience ascension symptoms. And then a lot of you are always asking me, but is it an ascension symptom, or is it, all the stuff they're throwing at us, the chemtrails and, the EMF waves and the food they're trying to poison us with and everything. And of course it's both. Okay. So, and I know a lot of you have had digestive problems for the past year, and I myself have just had unprecedented digestive issues. And so why are we having that? Yes, they are sending all kinds of toxic stuff at us, in our food and in the nanobots and technology and in the beam steering with the EMF waves. And, I won't get it. I've already talked about that. I'm trying to keep my channel on YouTube on, so I won't get into all the details. But, the key is you have to purge it from yourself, because then they won't have the environment. They won't have the home to anchor onto, especially with parasites. So one of the things that caught my attention, someone said, I keep trying to lose weight and I can't lose weight. And someone sent me this private, thanks to all you guys who sent me something about mucoid plaque. I didn't even know what mucoid plaque was. And so they sent it to me and they said, they showed strings of it coming out, and they said, you're not absorbing your food. You're having all this. So I took this like oxidized thing, it's like high magnesium and vitamin C to cleanse it. And, I was doing that, and they said, eat organic fruits and vegetables. And then I said, well, there has to be more. And that's when I found you, because I started searching on YouTube, mucusless diet. And I, realized it's a whole lifestyle, because what you're doing when you had pictures of I'll get into that a little bit later, but what does come out, we'll get into the deep doo-doo later.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is, when you have that residue, that slimy stuff, it's creating this candida environment, right, for parasites to grow, and then they're pulling in, they're of a lower frequency, so they're pulling all that stuff into you. And in a metaphysical sense, actually what that is doing is it's keeping you hooked onto lower frequencies and lower timelines. So your reality is creating dis-ease, death, decay, everything, because you're feeding from death and you're creating death. And that's what really, if there's just a simple choice that you're making day to day, moment to moment within your life. And I've talked about, it's called the KRYSTALA spiral of life, but it's life that's ascending, or it's the Fibonacci, not chi, spiral of death. So each moment with each thing you do, the breaths you take, the things you put in your mouth, you're choosing life, which is life, or remaining in the death cult. And we have been in a death cult. So you want to add to that?
Yeah, and we say that all the time, you know, death cult, the death culture, everything surrounding us is based on death, degeneration, disease, decay, and it's celebrated. You go up the street and they got pictures of dead animals and, you know, burgers, and there's the so-called Happy Meal. Everything is so bizarro. It's just backward and
inverted, perverted.
Inverted. And when you start to really, it's the real awakening. You know, there's all these different metaphors for Plato's cave and the Matrix, and, you know, just all these different concepts of waking up and They Live movie and that kind of stuff. And I found the mucusless diet healing system, when you really embrace this way of life, this does that on a whole different level, because you start to see how the entire society is based on pus and mucus eating. And when you start to understand and connect poor behavior with poor eating habits, which a lot of people don't like that, they don't want to make that connection. But once you do, then you start to realize anything, you turn on your TV and you see all the, you say the low vibration, low frequency kinds of things that's happening in the world, you only have to ask yourself one question: what are they eating? Or what were they eating? Because people often, somebody will go in and do some kind of school shooting or just whatever abomination they do, and people always ask, what were they thinking? It has nothing to do with what they're thinking, it's what they're eating. And I can guarantee you that they're eating pus and mucus forming foods.
Yeah, it's funny because in my newsletter is just about to come out, and this podcast will be included, because it's all about, you know, celebration of death, the Day of the Dead. Here in Italy, we call it the Day of the Dead, but, you know, in America, they call it Halloween. And you just look at how we glorify death, and that's just so symbolic of the death cult. And, you know, just thinking, you know, it's just like there's a certain switch that flips when you start seeing animals, you know, and you really start experiencing the oneness of everything, and you end up communicating with animals and tree spirits and everything, and then you just see on your plate a dead animal, you know, and you just can't like unsee it, because you realize you're eating something that's dead, and that's not normal. And I feel like the more and more we begin this whole new earth vibration. In fact, I'm going down to the Yucatan, like in Tulum. I mean, everything's like smoothies and Buddha bowls, and, you know, it's just so easy to eat this, you know, fruit that just falls from the trees, the mangoes and the papayas, and it's actually tastes so much better. But we've been mind controlled and programmed to think that something gourmet is a dead animal. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's totally backward. You know, when we look at the word death and observe that EAT is right in there. EAT, yes. Death.
And live, evil is live spelled backwards. So we've got the word magic going on there. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Death, interesting.
Yeah. And when you start to really, and that's a good point there, because, you know, I do, where I live, there's a whole lot of deer that live in the woods, and I go walking around in the woods all the time, and deers just come up to me, and I talk to them, and everything is good. But I see other times they'll run away from other people. And these guys, folks are running, but because they can smell, they can tell there's no dead animal. I don't have any. I'm not eating. I don't want to eat them. You know,
friends, not food.
Friends, not food. And and that's the thing where people really don't understand the kind of karmic debt there with every bite of a dead animal, every bit of suffering that animal had to go through. You are taking that on. You put that in your body, you're taking that on, and sooner or later you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to be called to, you're either going to go through a detoxification process where you can purify and cleanse your body, mind, and spirit of the past transgressions, or you will suffer.
Well, and I just want to say something. We'll talk about your book, but I want to talk about also the book that I wrote with my husband, Dr. Peter Monroy, who's a board certified obstetrician and gynecologist. We wrote this back in the 90s, and it's called The Pathway Home, and it's a guide to divine inner healing. And I just, he's no longer in the physical, but he's with me all the time. We work together, and we wrote a second book together, although he's not in the physical. But this book I also rewrote, kind of bringing it back to COVID, and I can say that, but I basically said the cure,
right.
the cure for that, the cure for the virus is getting back to nature, which you just said. The whole cure for all this artificial stuff that's coming down our way, or viruses or whatever, is reconnecting with Mother Earth, eating from Mother Earth, eating live food, eating what's real, eating life. And we talk about vegetarianism very much in the first chapter, because we talk about healings, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we talk about the fear that is actually, when the moment of death, when this animal is killed, there's nothing but fear, and it's locked in their cellular memory. And then you're just consuming loads and loads of their fear about being murdered. So
Yep.
I think that's an important point that people
wonder why there's anxiety and depression and this epidemic. My friend brother Ehret often says, why he'll bring up somebody like Harriet Tubman, who saved hundreds of slaves, in the back in the slave days, and bringing them on the Underground Railroad to the north. We don't hear about an epidemic of people dying of depression or dying of anxieties or something, and they were in a position to have earned, if anybody on this planet had earned the right to have anxiety and depression, it would have been those ancestors. But people we're so medicated, we're so disconnected, we have just accepted abnormality as normality. And
disease, yes. Yeah, we just take it as a norm that we have death and disease. And I'm going to talk about my experience in just a minute. Let's see. I think, we need to take a break. But I just want to say, from someone who's done everything, I was a vegetarian, a vegan, and I even tried keto for a while, where I was relying a lot on doing the fat and things to reverse fatty liver. But, it just felt horrible, really. I mean, at first, I lost a lot of water weight, but then it just didn't feel right. And I started this, back in September, I think it was. And, just since then I've lost, I'm on kilos over here, but I think about 15 kilos, and I just got so much mucus was coming out, and finally all these digestive problems I've had have gone. My intestines feel so much lighter. It's like, air. And as a result, that cleared me out, and I felt my frequency just went shoot. I mean, we've been going through major frequency upgrades with all the solar activity and ejections. And, but I was able to, because sometimes I'll load up on carbs and stuff when the ascension, the energies are real strong, but I was able to assimilate the energy so much better. And I'm at the point right now where my liver is really, really detoxing fast. It's amazing. And it's been a little painful, but, I just feel so much, but I'm kind of getting on the other side of it. And it's like, oh my God, I feel all of me feels alive, not just, the upper parts, but, the black hole in the middle of me.
Yep.
So, okay, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. And then we can learn more about how to do this, how to start this journey of healing.
For more empowering words from Elizabeth Monroy and Dr. Peter Monroy, check out their latest book, The Infinite Human, an ascension guide for starseeds, twin souls, and awakening infinite humans. The co-creators of the new infinite 5D Earth You'll also find many spiritual books to help both children and adults in their ascension back to home, to infinite God source. Isn't it time to be part of the new consciousness renaissance? If this resonates with you, please subscribe to our website at infinitehuman.com and become part of our growing Infinite Human family.
Welcome back to the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. Do you have a question or comment for Elizabeth or her guests? Please text or email your questions and comments to infinitehumanproductions@gmail.com. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back. I am here talking to Professor Spira and talking about books. I'm holding this up and I'm going to read it off to you, but this is his book. I guess this is kind of like the Bible. I'll let him explain it more, but it's Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System, annotated, revised, and edited by Professor Spira. And you can get it, I think, everywhere on Amazon. But Professor Spira, can you tell us a little bit more about all the things you offer and how to get on this? And then we'll talk about the steps.
Yeah. So years ago, I was given the divine inspiration to be the minister of information and this was way back it was kind of like, are you willing to take this challenge? And I was like, all right, I'll do it. This is what it is. So we've created a lot of resources to try to help educate people about the mucus diet healing system. So we have the series of books. So that's the one you want to do first is, the mucus diet healing system. We have rational fasting for physical, mental, and spiritual rejuvenation. One of probably the second most famous book by Professor Arnold Ehret. Then I have a book, I call it a lifestyle book. This is Spira Speaks, Dialogues and Essays on the Mucus Diet Healing System. So this has a lot of case studies, a lot of real practical information about how to practice the mucus diet today in the 21st century. Then there's a few other ones. We got Thus Speaketh the Stomach and Tragedy of Nutrition by Professor Arnold Ehret, Definite Cure of Chronic Constipation. And then we have, I don't have that around. There's a physical fitness book, which is actually more of a spiritual book. And then this is Spira's Notes, which is like Cliff's Notes. This has outlines of all of the information from the mucus diet healing system. And so those are the books. I have a e-course. I have a new course called the 7-Day Easy Mucus Removal System, which is a very is made to be very simple for people that are brand new to this information. So I purposely kind of divided everything down into bite-sized chunks and really tried to make it so that anybody of any age could check it out. So I would recommend anybody, if you're get to my website or check me out.
And what is your website? What is the website?
So go to mucus-free-life.com is my main website. Then you can find me on Instagram at prof.spira, and I'm on Facebook, Pro Spira, and my YouTube channel, Prof Spira. But you do any those searches, you'll find me all over the place. Yeah, so it's been about trying to create these resources. Of course, we have a bunch of things available online on those different channels, and it is really about preparing people for a profound paradigm shift, because the way that we conceive of the concept of nutrition and the concept of human illness and disease and all these things are quite different from the standard approach, because even a lot of people that kind of, identify themselves as being alternative thinkers and outside the box, when it comes to nutrition, oftentimes people, they end up coming back inside the box. And so this really will might challenge you to think of things a lot differently. But I think it's very helpful because it's more simple. It's once you can get through all of because we don't have to get into all the essential protein, fatty acid, and this and that. It's like, no, is your body eliminating what is unnecessary? So we have a paradigm of elimination where we see the body is constantly eliminating waste. And when you start to understand that, then you ask the question, what foods should I be eating to aid my body in its process of elimination so that you can have cellular respiration at the highest level? And so that's pretty big shift over. But yeah, definitely invite everybody to check out the resources and let me know what you think.
Okay, now let me just get this first to understand the whole, enchilada, the foundation, because I was a little bit confused. So, who was I researched him. I guess, the doctor, Ehret, right?
Yeah,
Professor Arnold Ehret was German, and he was back at the turn of the century, and he was the one who originally, through his research, began to explore how to cure these diseases, and
right.
that's what that's what first got you started in this whole journey. Is that correct? Can you?
Yeah. So Professor Arnold Ehret, he came about at the late 1800s, and he was part of the so-called back to nature renaissance that initiated in Germany and Switzerland at the time. And so at that time, there was an awakening. That was another point of awakening.
What time frame would that be?
We're talking 18.
The turn of the century,
1860s, 70s, 80s. Yeah,
wow.
into the turn.
Yeah.
Well, and what a lot of people don't understand is what they were doing in the 1870s and 90s and early 1900s. The culminated in the 60s, but then that was co-opted, and it went from people aspiring to eat fruit and fast and cleanse to a drug culture and it just have sex with everything that moves type of culture and a laziness culture. And so that's a whole a whole discussion on how.
And I write about that in the Infinite Human, which this talk show's about. So if you want to know more about how the CIA started, infiltrating and getting everyone on LSD, it's all there. So, yeah.
And that's exactly it. And so, but even before then, it had started to weaken. But with Arnold Ehret, him along with a lot of his contemporaries, with him first, he was really sick at a fairly young age. He had went into the military. He got so they say professor. He was a professor of drawing. So he would teach. It was a drawing educator. They have a little different system at that time. So having a professorship was kind of like a degree. But he got to a point, he was diagnosed with Bright's disease, which is inflammation in the kidneys. And he had he had a little bit of money from his family did. He had went to a bunch of different doctors in Europe to try to find a cure for his ailment. And they all said it was incurable. They could not help him. So he started to look into the natural healing of the time. And at that time, there were little retreats or little vegetarian kind of communes and things like that. So he got into that a little bit and he felt some relief, but it wasn't enough. It didn't really heal him. And he got to a point, as the story goes, where he just was like, I'm just going to fast. I'm not going to eat anything. If I die, I die, but I'm going to just start fasting. And to his surprise, after a couple weeks of fast, he had felt better than he had in years. And he could just observe this healing was happening. So he went from an incurable disease to feeling better than he had ever felt before in his life. So that's where his brilliance kicks in, and he starts to analyze and observe, like, okay, well, if I was able to do this, why can't other people do this? Like, what's going on here? And so he started to work at a sanitarium, ultimately opened up his own sanitarium where they would take in thousands of declared incurable people, and he would put them on what is now the mucus diet healing system and rational fasting methodologies, and would save them or they would heal themselves. And so he became really talked about in Europe. And there was a lot of things where to the point where you were either pro Ehret or anti Ehret in terms of his philosophy, because at that time too was the early phases of what became the medical industry and just standardized medicine. And so at that time there was all this arguing and fighting going on, and it was a little more robust in Europe. When you get over to America, of course, as you know, things were compromised, and we have all of the Rockefeller histories and that kind of thing. Well, Ehret found himself in that because he came over in 1914. World War I initiated when he was in Southern California, and so he couldn't go back to Europe. So he stayed in Southern California, and it was a lot harder for him to get published and to make that kind of noise with those institutions. The institutions kind of kept him out more so than they did in Europe. But he was starting to develop an insane following of people, because he's not only teaching the diet and healing and fasting, but there's also the back to nature elements. He loved camping, and he loved just being out in the wilderness and that whole vibration. And so ultimately he got to a point where people were hearing about what he was doing and coming from all over the place to come to his lectures. And he'd have these sold out lectures where people were paying, in today's money, would be like hundreds of dollars to hear him speak and to go be in his course and that kind of stuff. And but unfortunately, he passed away under very strange circumstances. And nobody saw it. And as the story goes, he was walking. He had just given a lecture to a sold out crowd in a hotel ballroom, and he was by himself walking on a cobblestone street. And as the story goes, did he have new shoes on and it was slippery? I mean, it's weird. It's weird, but ultimately they say that he fell, that he slipped on the ground and he fell straight on the back of his skull. And that is what is in the coroner's report, is that he died from a basal fracture to the back of the skull. Now,
yeah, right. Sorry,
I wasn't there. All I know is that doesn't sound right to me. That's very, very fishy. Because
I looked it up on Wikipedia, and as soon as I saw that, I said,
you already know. Yeah, that's
because it always happens like that. Just when someone starts to gather the clout and make a big shift,
right?
Boom,
Yeah.
I mean, we know that. We all know that.
And so after that, his right-hand man, Fred Hirsch, kept the books in print, the Ehret Literature and Publishing. He kept the books in print. He had opened up his own Highland Springs resort, and people like Einstein went there. He kind of knew famous people. So there was famous people that knew about the Mucusless diet, but it wasn't something that was being largely distributed. And there wasn't a lot of people that really practicing it on the level that what we try to do today was where we're trying to take it, me and my folks in my community. But
well, thank God you picked it up and you're bringing it out probably at a real apropos time, because I keep saying this. I really wanted to emphasize this. We have been in, in just a kind of matrix, a prison. And anytime anyone who starts to make a real shift into the positive, into the upward spiral KRYSTALA of life, they're always been knocked down. And, I have a list of it in the Infinite Human, if you want to read it. But now things have shifted. I really think the tides have turned and the cards are not stacked against us. So now we can really, this whole culture of life can start to take hold, and that's part of the ascension. So such a divine timing that you picked this up and that you're bringing this forth, as a messenger. So thank you for stepping up.
Yeah, no, it's a privilege to be able to do this and to have, when I do look back at my life and the different things that I've gone through that led me to this path and different gifts that I've been given and things, it all makes sense. Once I got
Yeah.
when I got here, it's like, okay, now, because it's a gift to know what you're supposed to do. Because I've been working more and more with young people, and sometimes the thing that I'm getting from some of the younger people in this generation, younger generation now, is that they don't really always know what they're supposed to do, or they don't have this conviction, or there's not the kind of confidence and looking to the future, the optimism. You know, growing up, when I remember, compared to now, I mean, we were fairly optimistic. You know, I grew up in the 90s, and there was no point, like, me and my friends, we were always thinking like, we're going to do big things. We're going to, you know, at no point did we think that things would not be great for us. And but when I listen to some young folks now, it's like they're already depressed. They sound like they're in their 70s, or it's like, like they sound older. You're not old, but they sound like the pus and mucus base old. And so that's so for me, I look at that as a gift, where it has been clear. My path has been fairly clear. Certain things I had to do. I had to act on it. I couldn't be scared. I couldn't let fear get in my way. But I'm really thankful for having the clarity, know what I'm supposed to be
think,
doing.
just listening to you, I mean, I believe very much what I say is there's certain, like, I call them premium starseeds, light workers, whatever you call them, people who have incarnated on the planet at this time with very strong soul missions to be the change and to get this planet, I really co-create a whole nother planet on a higher timeline, a whole new earth, that's a living earth. So, in the next portion, we'll talk more about the details of the diet, but I'd like to talk a little bit about your community, because the last chapter in the book, and this talk show is based on it, is the new earth, co-creating communities. And we may have these communities first on cyberspace, but I eventually see many of us coming together in little wonderful agrarian kind of communities where we're growing our own food, and when we're teaching and learning and creating our own art and our own music, on a high frequency, not co-opted by the evil music industry, and our own literature and films and things like that. So can you tell us about the community that you're creating and how people can, become part of it?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're right in sync with all of that, because that's exactly what we've been working on for years. And that vision has been very clear, and we've been very patient. That's one thing that I know with us, that I notice some people, they don't have the kind of patience, because they'll try to act on things a little bit too early, or they'll try to force things, and we never force anything. Everything just is manifesting perfectly in perfect time. And we're all of that stuff is on our list, it's not even to-do list, it's in progress, where getting the land, getting the systems involved, designer. It's really in the process of design, where we talk about lifestyle design. But I'm an avid studier of history and systems, and so I've been really into the structure of nations and how are these things built, because all of this stuff that's around us, there's systems upon systems that have built it. And I'm not the type of person that just rejects everything. I can appreciate things, even if it's pus and mucus based. There's certain things I can appreciate. And if it's something that we can use, we'll take it. We'll use it. In terms of, because when it comes to the post industrialization and all this kind of stuff, the problem is there was just no consciousness of the earth and creating an environment that is in sync with the earth. But we have the technology, we have the know-how, we have these things in place to where we can create large scale cities and small villages, and we can create things that are right in alignment with the earth, that doesn't destroy the earth, that doesn't destroy stuff. But we have to do it. We have to be the ones to do it. We can't just think about it and put it out there. It's like, no, we actually have to build it ourselves, and then we can act as a template for others. If we share, which also is then part of it. Once you build it, then you share. And in this modern technology, it's easy to share the information and to show, like, look, here, check out what we built. Then you do it. You go do it over there, do it over here. And
yeah, I think we're part of the job is creating kind of prototype communities. And you talk about technology, but really, I think a lot of it's going to be the ancient technology that's going to come back online. And we've had a lot of talk shows. You can check them out with EM Parks about Tartarian technology that is, basically works with the ley lines and the energetic and the free energy that Tesla was really, again, another person who, mysteriously died and all his stuff was confiscated. But it's coming back. It is coming back now in what I call the new consciousness renaissance. And but I've had people on here that are doing like New Earth communities. We had Sasha Stone in Bacalar and whatever. But I think for me, we have to get the foundation right, and it has to be on the KRYSTALA spiral of life. And a lot of people, I met people actually when I was down in Mexico before, a lot of people down there doing it. And this guy had made money on crypto, bought some land with it, thank God. But, crypto, again, corporations, we've been in a death call. And, they're talking about animal husbandry, I'm like, animal, and I was like, what exactly is that? Basically it's keeping animals to slaughter them. And, I thought there's no way I could live in a community where I pass. In fact, we had one right here where they have these little boars, wild boars, and then they had like wild boar pasta. And I'm like, oh, what happened to all the little pigs, and, who could live in a community where you're living every day with these lambs and these little cows, and then they just disappear, and they're like, I think we got to get it karmically correct. And that's why I like your whole, philosophy, because obviously it's grounded in the right principles.
Yeah, that's there. You see, there's so just throughout history, people have had these grand visions, and they've tried to create communes and different communities and environments, but they all are destined to fail if you do not have the mucus-free principles. In my opinion, the mucusless diet healing system and that level of consciousness, because you're not going to do, there's the best that money can't buy, the Jacques Fresco kind of futurist vision. And there's folks that were trying to take his work and Venus projects and that kind of stuff. But it's not going to work unless you get things in alignment with nature, physiologically speaking. So like you said, we're not going to create some kind of futuristic grand society where there's just millions and millions of animals that are being slaughtered somewhere. That is not
bringing the old timelines onto the new. They won't work. They'll fizzle out. And the second thing you said, which we're going to get into in the second part of this, is that, I think I call it pop ascension now, or whatever. A lot of people are just thinking it's all going to be done for them. Like, the good aliens are going to arrive and they're just going to beam me up and I'll be in La La Land, or, POTUS is going to make everything good and we're going to get rich again. And, everything, like, it's kind of like the Happy Meal, you just drive up, open your window and, shove it down your throat. I mean, people want change, but they don't want to make the changes. And it does take discipline. It does take, strong focus and a will. And, I'm not going to shame anyone, or I'm not going to belittle people, because, there's cycles, for myself. When I did this, I'm not perfectly where I want to be yet, but I've noticed a huge shift. And I think the proof is in the pudding. I always say, when you start taking the discipline to do it, it starts to get easier. Would you say?
Yeah. No, it's definitely a situation where you take one step toward the universe is going to take 3 steps towards you. But you have to take that first step. And that's what is hard for a lot of people. People are scared to take that step, to make these kind of changes, to make the change internally, to think about things differently when it comes to nutrition concepts, because we reject most nutrition concepts just fundamentally. When you get into the word nutrition, where the core of that is nurture, which really means to suckle, because it really, all those words like nurse and all that stuff is really goes back to the a child nursing with a mother, to suckle. Somehow they turn that into B12 theories and vitamin C and all this kind of stuff, where once you start to get deeper and deeper down this road, and I don't promote long-term fasting, but for those that have ever experienced long-term fasting, then you can appreciate that most of what they say you need, you don't need. And that we are, as Arnold Ehret says, we're air gas engines. Like right now, we can't go 5 or 10 minutes without breathing, unless you do a lot of training. But we can go a long time without food. And I got friends that have done 40+ day dry fasting. Again, I don't promote that, but I'm just to put into perspective what's capable of the human organism. And what happens when you do the kind of cleansing and internal transmutation that happens when you cleanse on that level.
Beautifully said. Now we're going to end this one, and then we'll pick this up in the second half. Okay, if you're watching live stream, stay tuned, because we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it. I really want to get into it deep. But can you, just for everyone who's listening now, one more time mention how they can get started on this beautiful journey, your website, and all that stuff, the best book to begin with, again, how they can find you?
Yeah, definitely go to mucus-freelife.com, and you can connect with all of our stuff is there. You definitely want to, if anything, get a copy of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. My version is the annotated, revised, and edited edition. There's other versions. Just get something and read the book. We have the 7-day easy mucus removal system, which is basically, it's the Mucusless Diet Healing System, but it's a special version of it where I take you by the hand, and it's basically like a 7-day challenge, less than an hour commitment a day. We'll take you by the hand, guide you through the book. So after 7 days, you will know more about human physiology and healing than 99% of the people on the planet. So,
okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. You've been just a joyous, wonderful breath of living fresh air. I really appreciate you. And please tune in next time when we'll get into more detail about this. Okay, ciao for now.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. We hope today's episode has inspired you to join the new consciousness renaissance and be the change by reclaiming your true divine infinite nature within and becoming an infinite human and a co-creator of the new infinite earth. Tune in next week for another empowering episode. Until then, have an infinite week.
All right. Terrific job today. Good show. We are clear.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Bye.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
We're gonna take. How about like a 2-minute potty break? Would that be okay? Okay, and we'll be right back, and then we're gonna get into it in the last 57 minutes. So if I have to manipulate you, so we get everything in, I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay. Oops. All right. Are
Yep.
you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Round two. Sorry about Kiki. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions about the diet itself and the nuts and bolts of it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. And we don't have Matt here, so it'll be put in later. So I'll be doing some weird stuff. Hello, my divine, infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome back. We are here with Professor Spira, and we're getting into the second part of this series about healing yourself with a mucus-free diet. And we're going to get deep into it, and I'm going to ask him some questions and just kind of discuss a lot of things that I felt and that maybe you will first, how to get into it, how to start the whole process, and then what are some of the things you might be experiencing with it. And I just wanted to say, I said on the last broadcast how much better I feel, and it is challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. It's like everything in life, you have to do it. You have to discipline yourself. You have to make the commitment. But once you do, it can really turn your life around, and especially, your health, because most all of dis-ease is based on, of course, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, but it starts with what you're putting in your body. As Hippocrates said, let thy food be your medicine. Okay. So without further ado, here we have Professor Spira again, and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And so do you just want to kind of give us a little overall for some people that might just be tuning in for the first time about the diet and what it does for you, and how to start?
Yeah. So the mucusless diet healing system is a transitional system that helps you transform your body, mind, and spirit through diet, fasting, physical activity, putting all of these things together in a certain way so that you change your physiology on a fundamental level. So, what are mucus forming foods? So, you'll hear me sometimes say pus and mucus forming foods. Pus forming foods denote animal products. And we're talking about the very viscous, concentrated form of slime that dead animal flesh and things like dairy and just rotten foods degrade down into this really viscous slime. And we call that pus. Then mucus is going to be your vegetable-based or plant-based mucuses. So things like the white potatoes are mucus forming, and avocados, which I know now that doesn't mean you can't use them for transition, but fundamentally, one thing you can observe is anytime you're eating a lot of mucus forming foods, when you go to the bathroom, you might notice that you have to wipe. What are you wiping? You're wiping the slimy residue of these foods, because when you do eat 100% mucus free for a period of time, you start to notice like, oh, I don't really have to wipe. There's no residue there when you've cleaned yourself out to a certain level. So mucus diet healing system. It is a rediscovery of humans' natural diet, how we're actually supposed to eat, how we're supposed to live. And it provides insight into why there's so much suffering when we don't abide by these natural laws.
Okay, thank you. That's really wonderful. So, okay, so well, really have to look at, your shit. I mean, it's really fundamental. So I thought I'd keep this, the second part, because, it's key, and let's just tackle it right there, as a proper, lady, but, throw that out, because sometimes that's like gets in your way, because, what comes out of you, and the difficulty, and so many people are having so much problems, just constipation and gas gas and bloating and just the swollen. I'll just say it. I had my intestines were like swollen, and every time I ate, my stomach would start to hurt when it started to move out of my stomach, and then it got to the point where something I'd never had before, but it was like stuff was like sliding out, in different, like glops, it was just so strange. And I know, I think now we have to be ever so vigilant, because even here in Italy, where, in Sicily, I live here because there's produce fresh every season, I mean, right now it's olive, harvest time, and there's always zucchini and eggplant and all this kind of wonderful fruits, and so I thought, wow, I'm gonna be so healthy here. But then I looked around, a lot of people were dying, at early ages, and of course there's pasta, pizza, and pastries, but now they're even starting gluten-free bakeries here, because the glycemics, so it's just our environment's so much more toxic now. A lot of people are experiencing that, just mucus like sliding out of your intestines, when you're going to the bathroom. So do you want to talk about that?
Sure, that's one of my favorite topics. So I'll warn the folks that can see this. I guess we'll have to describe this. So you were talking about mucoid plaque earlier. So I always have pictures of mucoid plaque on hand. So this is the stuff that's inside of the body that's causing so much distress and bloating and pain, and just you can't expect to feel great when you have pounds and pounds of this slimy, uneliminated, fetid, nasty residues. Worms are in there. You got your tapeworms and all your parasites, all this stuff.
Roundworms, pinworms, everything.
Exactly.
And some of it's like black. You said there's like tar.
The black tar type of slime stuff. Yeah, black tar, sludge, all different forms of slime and mucus. And these things, over time, when you're eating mucus-forming foods, since childhood, you have been cultivating and developing this lining of slime that is never eliminated. If you don't do what we're talking about, or you don't know anything about detox, this stuff just builds up over time, and it causes all manner of constipation and disease. So, Arnold Ehret, at the very beginning of the Mucusless diet healing system, he says, all disease, no matter what name it is known by medical science, is constipation, a clogging up of the entire pipe system of the human body. We're not just talking about bowel constipation, but cellular constipation. So most people that do not know this, they are cellularly constipated from head to toe. So that means your blood gets filthy. And wouldn't you think, if you have this in the intestines, that's systemically going to make your body filthier and filthier? We have to look at the lymphatic system and the kind of stagnation. There's a relationship between the blood and the lymph that most people don't really understand. But when you are constipated, when you have all of this toxic waste in your body, your lymph system can't flow properly. It's going to get slow down and get stagnant, and it's acid, it's acidic. And so now we're going to start to see damaged cells, that they like to use the word cancer for these things. And it's this downward spiral from a physical standpoint.
And then the liver and the gallbladder, everyone's getting their gallbladder and the pancreas. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
So
and
that's when you're like on death row.
Kidneys, if the kidneys aren't filtering, the organs of elimination. And then you have a lot of people want to blame, when they start having conversations about imbalances, and they always want to blame something on this concept of nutrition. And this is why we say that's a false concept. It's a problematic, paradoxical concept to think, because of like, oh, you're deficient, you're low in something, So
Mhm.
let's give you this synthetic version of this thing and prop you up. What we found is the majority of people's endocrine systems are shot because of the way we live, because we're not designed to live with airplanes and helicopters and, you know, all of this, TVs and cell phones. Like so that's messing up our nervous system and all the stuff that you talk about too. Because I don't even get into all that stuff, because just without the nefarious part, just our environment, it taxes our adrenal glands, and you end up at a point where the way we live and eat, because you eat all this high protein and the meat and all that stuff, that's taxing your adrenal glands. People have compromised thyroids, and they're like, oh, I'm fatigued, I can't get up. So instead of trying to, what they want to do in the medical world is let's feed it with stuff, with whatever, let's supplement and get your vitamins and this and that. And it kind of, what we found is if you actually heal the endocrine system, then you will heal your whole body, you know, that you without any supplementation, without that whole concept. So,
You know, I wanted to ask also about the mental aspect, because I noticed you had a video on what your gut and everything is affecting, you know, many kinds of mental illnesses that the psychiatrists are giving you more, you know, toxic drugs to like balance your moods, and, you know, Xanax and Depakote, and, you know,
yeah.
I mean, I can go on and on.
And those are some of the worst medications on the planet. Like just the things that the psychiatrists give to people. It's really sad to me. It's because that stuff is not necessary, and that can really put you. It's hard to detox that stuff out, and it can be hard to it's possible. But it can be. There's a lot of work that has to be done to rewire your brain after they've hit you with that stuff. But yeah, the body, you know, if you look at the intestines, look at the brain, it's like there's a relationship there. There's something that they don't look at it like that. But most people's decisions, they're making decisions based on the brain in their stomach region, their intestines.
Well, I've actually seen that, you know, the parasites, because, you know, it's full of parasites, all that mucoid plaque, it's a breeding ground, and they can actually attach themselves to the vagus nerve and like send signals like, eat that, you know, sugar donut now, we need it. You know, they're like controlling it's in, you know, your cravings, you know, they're sending messages, feed us, feed us.
Yeah. I mean,
Anymore.
we like to say the most revolutionary thing that you can do is learn how to control what you put into your body, because when you do that, then you have the autonomy, you take back control. When you don't, it's like you said, all the little critters, you're open to anything. You're open, you're weak enough, you could have entities enter you and take over. You can have the TV take you over. Like, you are an open vessel to be dominated and controlled when you're not clean.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
if you want to be immune, if you want to have total autonomy and freedom, and I've coined the term physiological freedom, physiological liberation, that this is our liberation movement. Because if we can get this together, if we can get the physical part together, it leads to the rest. Because generally, this is the part that people don't have. They'll have other pieces, and whatever they're into, their spiritual practices and their meditative practices. But when you don't have this at the foundation, those things will be compromised, and there's always going to be a limit. But once you unlock this, then it's limitless. You can go wherever you want to go.
Yeah, I just want that is so powerful what he said, and I want to say it again because we talked about it in the first episode. But everyone's doing like all these kind of activations and shielding themselves and cleaning their auras and all that. But I mean, you're just leaving the door wide open. If you're filled full of parasites and gunk and pus and all that low frequency stuff, there's no way you're going to get up into the higher, frequencies, whatever the fifth dimension, sixth dimension, the higher dimensions, when your physical vehicle is being commanded and being a slave to these toxic foods and environments, and you got to purge them, you got to detox them to be sovereign, to be God sovereign free. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, but okay, so I just want to say, and I've been doing it. I used to actually do coffee enemas all the time, but enemas are part of it. The lemon juice enemas, which I've been doing that. It actually were very painful because I had so much trouble getting all the elimination out. So
Yeah.
I was surprised because I had done enemas before and I hadn't had that problem. But so you want to talk a little bit about how that's really important and why and what is it doing?
Yeah, the lemon juice and distilled water enemas, those are a total game changer. And that's one of the things that me and my community and Brother Air and Victor Buttram brought to the table and augmented the practice of the Mucusless diet. Because in the Mucusless diet, Arnold Ehret talks about water enemas and the importance of those. But our community started experimenting with adding lemon juice to it back in the 70s, and that's a total game changer because now you have the astringent property of the lemons. You can use limes, but they're not as potent in my opinion, but the lemons is my favorite, and that astringency, it really is a game changer because it's going into your colon. If you can just imagine all of this slime and waste and that stuff, because a lot of people think that they do like a couple days of cleansing and then they're clean. No, like we have generations of filth that we have to deal with. There's generations of improper eating and the accumulation of waste that's been passed down to us. So that's why we like to look at this as a lifestyle, or this is going to take a while. But the lemon juice and distilled water enemas, they kill the parasites. So that lemon, you put that lemon up in you, all those little parasites, all that stuff that's in there, that's going to help kill those and flush those out. Because anytime that you have a craving for a particular food item, especially if it's like pus and mucus forming food item, you are having a craving for poison. And when you really sit and think about that, that's like, why would I crave poison? Well, then we're addicted to something that we shouldn't be. And the lemon enema is such a great tool to neutralize the poisons that are connected to that addiction. So it helps break that. So if you're craving a steak, you're craving a cheeseburger, you're not really craving a burger, you're craving the stimulation from that drug, from that piece of poison. But once you break that connection and you detox your body of the poisonous residues from that thing, you're liberated from it. You don't want they don't want it. People often ask me over the years, I'll get things like, don't you miss eating burgers? Don't you miss pizza and meat? Like, I could never stop eating meat and all of these kinds of things. And I'm saying, well, no, I don't miss those things, because I don't miss drinking bleach, because bleach isn't something that I regard as food. It's poison. And that's the type of relationship that you get to foods that you're not supposed to eat. So yeah, the lemon juice enemas, yeah, I can't say enough good things about those.
I have to agree, and I've been doing them for, I guess, about 2 months now. But gosh, I moved to Sicily, and they had the most incredible desserts. You just walk in, and they make them all, and every day, like I'd have my little cappuccino, my little cassata or whatever. It was just great. I mean, I lived for that. And it's so weird. Like today, I walked in to the cafe I always go to, and it's like I looked at him. I enjoyed looking at him. The little inner child. I noticed you did this inner child video with nice cream, because your inner child, especially if you have a hurt one, you kind of feed yourself to nurture yourself. But
Mhm.
it was like they didn't have the hold on me, and that was so wonderful. But I wanted to ask you something now, because I feel like I'm kind of moving toward another level, because I actually did there was a time when I did, I was prescribed drugs and I took them and I knew better, but I was just, I just lost my twin soul. Everyone goes through that. And I was like, I wanted to die, so I was just, okay, fine, And I had a really bad fatty liver. I gained so much weight. And I feel like I'm kind of, and, everyone says, oh, keto for fatty liver. But what do you think about this? There's a doctor that's really big on that. So,
Right.
yeah. So could you tell me what is this doing? And for me, of course, now I'm starting to feel a lot of pain in it, but I'm actually doing the lemon juice enemas and drinking a lot of lemon juice and, other things, with this diet. And I'm taking a lot of herbs, the milk thistle and stuff. So, do you think this is a cure for everything, for fatty liver too? And what is there a phase that you go through as you start to get all the fat from your toxic liver? It's gonna. Is it normal?
One of the things that's really fascinating about the Mucusless diet is whatever your weakness is. Arnold Ehret has a whole section. He talks about latent disease that is in you, but hasn't presented itself yet. And when you start to practice a Mucusless diet, whatever your latent diseases are, whatever your weaknesses are, it presents itself. So for some people, it's a liver. Other people, it might be their endocrine glands. It might be a thyroid or adrenal glands. For somebody else, it might be their kidneys. They have weak kidneys. They might have had a parent that succumbed to kidney failure, and so they have a weakness there. We call that genetic weaknesses, which is it's different from the way they use genetic concepts within the medical sphere. But when you have a weakness, the Mucusless diet, in terms of the system, when you're applying the system, you're doing short-term fasting, you're getting the enemas in, you're changing your diet, whatever is weak is going to become known to you. And so if you
like a healing crisis, it's going to be purging. So you might think you're getting sick, but you're not getting sick. It's almost like people call them ascension symptoms, because it's maybe even karmic patterns that are past and future lifetimes that one area is your hot spot. So you think, oh no, I'm getting sick, I better stop. But you need to keep going, maybe back up a little bit.
One of the most powerful statements in the Mucusless diet healing system that Arnold Ehret says is that when you're doing this, he's particularly talking about fasting, but the whole diet. But when you're walking this path, you are on nature's operating table. So when you think about if you were to go into a surgery, and there's some surgeries that take months to recover from. You go in and they give you pills, and that's accepted in society. But when you say, oh, I need to take a couple months off and I'm going to heal myself naturally, I'm going to lay on Mother Nature's operating table and get myself together, there's a stigma there. People don't understand that. But that's what's happening. So but that's also why one of the only people I know of in the world, in our community, that really emphasizes transition dieting and understanding the transitional methodology, because what happens to some people is they try to skip over the transition. So they try to do excessive fasting, 100% mucus free, 100% raw, 100% fruit or whatever, and or long juice fasting without any transitional techniques, and they'll feel good for a while, but it brings on those latent illnesses and those weaknesses far too quick for them to be able to actually deal with. So they ultimately get into a place where they're really not having a good time. and because they
And
don't
I just want to
understand those
say something
mechanics.
to that, to
Mhm.
our, our listening audience, because I believe that, the first book Peter and I wrote was Be a Vegetarian. The second book, I said, your body, you need to really listen to your body, because now we're in very high ascension frequencies. And sometimes, they're so powerful, you just can't go do exactly what you want at the same time, because you're purging so much so fast. So I've had to go really, really slow, because I'll actually just sometimes feel like I'm going to pass out. I've been drinking, I just have water all the time in my hand. I have to. And, I fasting used to never be a problem for me, but just with these ascension things, I can't do fasting so much. I'm starting to feel like I can do a little bit more now. I always do half a day fast, I do intermittent fasting, but, I think, I'm hoping you get on the other side of it to the point where you've gotten the really heavy toxic stuff out, so you can go more of the just like ongoing fasting and eating a lot lighter in terms of the fruits and vegetables. Is that true?
Yeah, because there's a huge difference. Most people don't know this, because this is the long-term practice dynamics. And there's a difference between somebody that's doing a fast right at, in the first couple years of practicing this lifestyle, and fasting 20 years into it or 30 years. There's a whole different physiology, and it's a whole different kind of thing that's happening when with those different fasting. Most people, when they start off, they find it easy to fast at first, because you're really running off of your old stimulant that's in your body. So you're like, oh man, it's so easy to fast. I feel great. You're running off of your old, we call it, old chicken energy. It's like it's just, as your body is trying to burn off its old waste, you can be stimulated and kind of feel like, okay, I feel pretty good. But then you get to a point where that stimulant is gone. You've eliminated the stimulant from your body, and your body is learning to adapt to really truly running off of oxygen and air, and getting the stimulant that it needs from fruit sugar, getting the cleansing that it needs from the vegetables. And so that's a process. That's what takes time, and that takes patience, and takes that just sticking to the transition, and because you don't want to let yourself get to the point where you're feeling too fatigued or faint or that kind of stuff. You want to make sure to be eating enough along with the transition, to make sure that you're moving forward. And so I find that when I work with people, sometimes I have to tell them to eat more, because they're not eating enough. It's like, no, you need to eat more. We're going to remove a lot of the worst mucus formers, but you want to have enough food to be satiated, and things that are going to move through you and continually cleanse your body.
But it's funny, because it's kind of different for me, because I'm really attuning to the frequencies.
Mhm.
So when I was in about 2 years ago, I think I was around this area in the Yucatan where they hadn't put the towers in yet. That you could say high five, OG, yet. And and I was sweating all the time. It was really hot, so that helps a lot, because I'm if I sweat, and I was like just running around on coconut water and papayas. And that's all I ate for like a week. And I looked down, and I didn't even know I had lost like all this weight, and because it was just so easy, because I was kind of like surfing with those frequencies, and I was busy and I was doing stuff, and, as opposed to if you're in areas where they're throwing all this stuff at you, I just couldn't, I would be getting ill when I was eliminating there was too many toxins, I think. So I think that's one thing that a lot of people have to be really sensitive to right now, with the energies going so up and down, and the wars that we're in with all the stuff there. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the environment, that's an important element. One thing that we've done is I think we were put into a location in a place where we could prove this can be done from anywhere, where you can do that even in the most toxic, nasty, because since I I'm from Cincinnati, so I talk nasty about Cincinnati. I live in Columbus, Ohio, but Cincinnati is just a real filthy place, just a toxic
God,
environment. And,
I'm from Louisville,
okay,
Kentucky, and
which
I'm getting
is
ready to go back there in 2 weeks. And I have to sit in an infrared sauna every day.
yeah.
I just can't stand it. I mean, it's I get off the plane. I'm like, oh my God, how do you guys even walk? In this place. So
Yeah,
kudos to you.
yeah. Industrial, yeah, because Cincinnati's got similarities to Louisville. It's that
Yeah, it's like,
industrial
well,
type
it's
of
kind of
vibe.
the greater, the
Yeah,
airports there and everything. Yeah.
and
Um,
yeah. So we.
So, you know what? Let me just stop here a minute. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
All right.
And we're back. So, okay. So we're talking about how the environment influences you. It's a huge thing, but also the frequencies of the places you are. And yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying something right before we took the break. Can you finish up with that? And then I have another
Well,
question.
just that we've lived in environments, whether urban environments or suburban or wherever, that in the Midwest, where it's not perfect equator based
Yeah.
weather, we're not in the best environment, but we could still practice this lifestyle at a high level. And I think because what was interesting about the Cincinnati area, it was interesting that was the place where so much of this physiological consciousness was coming out of all the different places around the world and around. It was a community of people in Cincinnati that was practicing this lifestyle. And so I've found that at the certain level, when you're talking your basics is getting yourself clean, that can be done wherever you're at. Now, when you start
Yay,
wanting
Cincinnati! But by the
Yeah.
way, I'm going to be there November 23rd. I will be in Cincinnati at the Body, Mind, and Spirit
Okay,
Expo.
they got an expo going.
I'll
Okay.
be giving a talk at 5:00. So if you're listening to this, please migrate there. And do you go there very much? Do you ever go to the Body, Mind, and Spirits or anything like that?
I think I wonder if that's the one. There years ago, like 2006 or 7, that was a psychic festival, but we were
That's
invited
kind
to
of the
come.
same thing. It's psychic, they're
Yeah,
healthy.
yeah,
It's all
we were invited, and we set up a booth, and we had
at Sharonsville. Sharonsville, the expo.
Sharonville
Yeah,
Convention
yeah.
Center. Yeah, because that's where I went to high school, across from that.
Wow. Well, I'll be there. I
it's
can't
a
believe it.
different
I'll be there
building
from
now, but
Italy.
yeah. That's where I grew up. That's the part of Cincinnati where I grew up, because Springdale is right next to Sharonville.
Oh,
So
well, come
that's
out
where
and
I
say
come
hi
from.
if you're in the
I'm
area.
around, yeah.
Yeah, you would be a perfect there. I could just see your booth there already. I must have been tapping into the old the past.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, Cincinnati. Okay, so, all right. Well, let's get into it.
and to finalize but
Yeah.
so wherever you start at, it is good to have a plan to move to someplace better, to migrate. We're all our ancestors, we're all migrationists, we're all nomads. So to be able to have that mentality, because I like the nomad life. When I have a van, I like having a place to go back to. So I have the sticks and bricks, but I love jumping in my van and just going wherever, like just no plan.
Yeah.
No, I'll just go. And I tend to find myself going down to Florida, and I'll just explore, looking for it. I found a fruit stand that was in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and it had the best fruit down in Florida. And I was
Oh my
just
God!
like,
When I was in Sarasota at another psychic fair, the Amish fed me. I mean, if it hadn't been for the Amish, I don't know what would have happened to me. I mean, they had the produce stands that were so good; they grew it themselves. But yeah, I think we're all being called to certain places, you know, on the planet
Mhm.
right now. There's just certain places that resonate with us. I'm kind of here and there, both sides of the
Mhm.
Atlantic. But I just want to say you're a very wonderful example of, you know, even if you're in a toxic environment, just looking at you. I mean, you showed the before and after pictures in the last episode, but you know, you just look the radiant health, you know, you just exude it, you know, just your skin glows and your aura, you know, is just vibrant. And I know I'm describing that because for our listeners, you
Mhm.
know, but he really does that. And I did that with Amaso too, who was on she was up in North Carolina during that whole geoengineered
Mm.
hurricane from hell. But she's a vegan, and you know, you just look into her eyes, you know, you look at her skin, she's just, you know, and it's I think it's the fountain of eternal youth, because I really believe we are turning back the clock now, you know, and we don't have to get diseased and decay and decrepit and die, you know.
Right.
We're shifting that. So do you want to get into just the mechanics of, you know, like, let's talk about what we're eating? And I know you're not, you know, you start out the transition diet, so you're not like a total fruitarian or raw or anything like that. You have a nice balance there. So
Mhm. Whoop. We have the the technical difficulty. I think you got to unmute. Looks like you accidentally hit the mute button. Got hit. See, oh, okay. So see, you got to unmute. I think the mute button got hit.
okay,
There we go.
my computer just fell off the table. That's never happened before. I tell you, tonight's been like weird. Sorry, I'm sure we can edit this all out. Please do. Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm all ears.
So say the question again.
Okay. The question is, what's a diet? Let's talk about
Yeah.
exactly how people can start besides just
Yeah.
getting the.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to get the
That,
book.
yeah, you get the book.
Right. Yeah.
And then the next thing is you go to the store. And because there's basically, it's like read the book, you get the information, then you have choices to make when you go to the store or wherever it is that you buy your food. And you go to the produce section, ignore the other sections, go to the produce section, and you start to fill your cart up with fruits and vegetables. And for me, I encourage people to treat it like a journey. You're going on a journey to explore the different foods. Because for one thing, when people are worried about variety, there's way more variety in the fruit and plant kingdom than there is of the meat that people eat. You know, people eat meat, a few different types of meat, but there are like 30,000 different whatever species of fruits and vegetables and things that are available to us. So you want to have fun with it. If you're really serious, and whenever you're ready to do this, you can go into your kitchen or your pantry with a garbage bag and just start throwing everything away. that's there, all the old processed stuff and your old cereal and whatever milk and whatever crap is in there. Throw all that away. Have a clean slate. Go and then fill your refrigerator up with fruits and vegetables. And then you learn some of we call them mucus lean, or there's a handful of mucus forming food items that are recommended to use along the way. So when I started, I was using, which I don't always recommend today because there's better options now. Some of the stuff I used 22 years ago, they didn't have the options there's now that they have today. So I used whole organic whole wheat spaghetti with big things of vegetables and big raw salads. Anytime I eat some kind of mucus, I'd always have a big salad. But that helped me get off of meat when I was still having cravings for meat. So I was having these big things of the wheat spaghetti with all that. Nowadays, I would recommend people get in. There's some gluten-free options like the red lentil pasta, vegetable pastas and stuff like that. The whole purpose, it's not for nutritional value. It's to help you ease off of the mucus forming foods, because mucus cravings for certain mucus forming foods are real. So there's a time and a place to have. It's better to have a little bit of mucus than to try to be perfect and ultimately have a relapse where you have this uncontrollable craving for whatever, and then you fall off the wagon and you go and eat a bunch of stuff that you lose control. For me, the name of the game is maintaining that control. So in terms of when you're getting into fasting periods, when you're getting into different periods of eating, the more control that you can maintain, that is really the goal, in my opinion. Because I work with a lot of people that they'll get into these long fasts, and that's great, but then they fast for too long and they lose control. So they don't break their fast eloquently. They end up breaking it, and within hours or days, they're back to eating mucus forming foods. So if you do a long fast, you want to eat 100% mucus free. When you break it, you want to be mucus free for a percentage of time based on how long you were fasting. And so those are the kinds of things that you learn when you're on this path. And that's part, I call practicing this diet an art form. So that's the art of the transition, the art of fasting. Because as an artist, you know that it takes learning and developing the skills and the craft a little bit every day, whether it's a musical instrument or it's whatever it is. You unlock more and more of those abilities and more of that understanding day after day. And that is, for me, what the Mucusless Diet Healing System is about, as an art form. And you had to give yourself to it. You really have to surrender to it and just like, all right, let's go on this journey. And it's going to reveal so much to you when you get on the path. There was points.
Well, let me talk to you about my journey for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because I went on this journey with you.
Yes.
And okay, I did the same thing. I threw everything out, and instantly they don't have garbage disposals. Oh my God, it's horrible because you know all this fruit and veggies, cutting them up and stuff. But yeah, I started doing this. You talked about the broom salads, so I got into that. And then the smoothies, you know, so I'd like start the day with a smoothie and then try to do the broom salad later on, you know. And you know, I was able to do a lot, and it got rid of a lot of mucus the first couple of weeks. But then, yeah, I needed to get more. Well, I know you say you don't need as much protein, but I really felt like I needed a lot more protein, and so it took me a while. But I kind of learned, you know, because they don't have anything here. They don't have any, you know. I'm out in the country and. But they have good produce, but they don't have alternatives, you know. So I got like the chai seeds and the hemp seeds and that kind of stuff, and added it to this. And then I started the legumes, which has helped me a lot to give me some more food. But I missed this. I signed up for the 6-day thing, but I didn't get in it because I was busy with something else. So is that something you can always do? Because
if you signed up for that, that's there. Yeah, so you can log into that.
Oh, you can go in and do it another time. Okay. But I mean, I noticed I noticed a big shift. But one of the things that happened to me, it just happened to me once and then I got over it. But I think I heard you talk about it, or Aaron, the other guy who I guess your friend, you know, who works with you, said something like, you'll start craving what like your favorite thing, because I was out there one day and I was doing the broom salads, I was doing the smoothies, for a couple of days, and all of a sudden I just started feeling dizzy or anything, and I had to pull over. And I mean, of course, there's no McDonald's and all that crap here, thank God, but they have cafes, and so I had a pizza with cheese on it, and then I had a pastry or something, just wolfed it down. I was like, oh God. And then it was like it went away and I didn't have it anymore. But is that something? Is that just weird?
Yeah, I mean, that's all. I have a whole, so in my it's not in the I don't think it's in the one you had. Maybe it is in there, but I have a whole in my bigger e-course. I have a whole section on addiction and eating mucus free and the mucusless diet, and we get into that where we're some of the only people that really talk about relapses and in this plant-based arena, the reality of relapses, that it's going to happen. I don't know anybody that didn't have any kind of relapse. The question is, what do you do when it happens? How can you prevent it from happening if you do understand that, and make it so that it's less tragic, or that it's not tragic at all. And so that story that you told, that's very typical of people. At some point you're going along, everything feels great, and then all of a sudden because whenever you're removing certain residues out of your body, that's also, it really can tell you that now you know what you're eliminating, because all of a sudden you have craving for something.
But, I mean, I did it and then it went away, and then I haven't had it since. So I mean, I guess if you do it, you just don't make a big deal out of it. Just do it, and then okay, I relapse.
Yeah, and that's where the lemon juice enemas come in and are very important, because they can help where, you have a relapse, you eat some stuff, but as Brother Ehret calls that, the forgiving factor. It's like a forgiveness tool where you can go in there and it's like, okay, at least clear yourself out. Because when you don't have that tool,
it's hard for me to do that. But let me ask you a question, because once, I don't know if it's true, but I went to this doctor and she diagnosed me with ovarian cancer, and I was like, what? And I don't know if it was real or what, but I researched this German Gershwa, and she talked about if you have anything, you can get rid of it. They work with
Gerson.
Gerson,
Gerson therapy.
Gerson diet. So I did the coffee enemas for the liver, and then the green juice, fresh pressed, green juices for like so many days. And then I went to the doctor. They said, you don't have any cancer. I don't know, whatever. But I wanted to ask you your opinion of the coffee versus the lemon juice enemas.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of the coffee enemas, because the lemon enemas can do the same thing. When you get into the lemon juice and distilled water enemas, they're going to flush your liver, your whole system in that same type of way. What I don't like about the coffee is it's overstimulating those glands, the liver. So it wants it, because I don't like those liver flushes that people do with all the drinking the oil and all that stuff, and I'm not a fan.
Oh yeah, because I used to do that all the time. Yeah, you're talking about the liver flush.
Yeah,
it is very.
I find, because then it's like if you're drinking oil and then people get out like the little green. It's like, okay, well, is that from the oil, or is that from what I found doing lemon juice and distilled water enemas? I would get those little things out from that, and I'm not drinking oil, and I'm pretty mucus free. Yeah. So it's like, I know that this is, and that was years ago. I haven't had that stuff come out of me in a long time. That's years and years ago, because a lot of that stuff, once you clear it out, the more, a lot of that more chronic stuff, or that initial stuff, you get that out of there and it's gone. But yeah, I don't like, because what happens with the coffee and just coffee in general, trying to get people off of coffee and that as a drug, it taxes the adrenal glands like really, really bad. And that's why you have people that get so addicted to coffee where they feel like they can't function if they don't have their coffee, or they don't get their caffeine. What's that?
I live in Italy, so it's espresso
Yeah,
every
yeah,
5 minutes. But I just
yeah,
want to
yeah.
one of my loyal followers, Hope Spring High. She said she got hit by something and she ate 10,000 oranges afterwards. She couldn't stop it. And I mean, I just think that's testimony to I love what you said. You said nature surgery or something, like you give your nature's so
Yeah,
healing.
nature's operating table.
Nature's
Yeah.
operating table. That's cool. I got to remember that. That's cool. Okay, so we're on the last 10 minutes now. I see. So just to wrap this up, and make sure, what do you say to someone that's listening to this and they're going, oh my God, I got all these parasites, I got all this mucoid plaque, oh my God, you're right. I feel tired. And that's another thing. I'm starting to finally get my energy back. I mean, I was so tired all the time. So I guess, reach out to you, go to the
Yeah,
website.
yeah, and we do. I have a coaching program. It's not, you can't find it online. That's something where we would have like a discovery call and see if we're the right fit and that kind of stuff. If that's something that you're interested in, you can send us something on mucus-free-life.com. We have a contact section, so you could send us a direct message there, and we could hook something up. But yeah, I mean, all the resources, we got the e-courses, the books, a bunch of content on there. We have our mucus-free social. When you do join the coaching program, or if you enroll in the Mucusless Diet Healing System e-course, our bigger course, we have our own private social media platform that's not Facebook, where it's our own little private space. And that's where we get in there and talk about our experiences and connect, and just a really beautiful community there. And so those are things that we're building behind the scenes, and just really trying to create an environment.
You're not by yourself out there doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you're not by yourself, because a lot of creating that support mechanism, the accountability mechanisms, and it just makes it easier. It makes it more fun to practice this, because I am the type of person where I'm a little bit more lonerish than a lot of, I guess, the average person. I can function by myself for quite a long time, and I'm not going to change what I'm doing. My motivation is on point, but I notice some people are not like that. They need this. They really, really need, like, I like the support of other people, but some people truly need that, where they're not going to be able to be successful if they don't have that connection. We talk about the plugging in, being able to plug into the energy and have the support, and connecting with it. We have a Wednesday it's a free Wednesday meetup every Wednesday, where people from all over the world come into Zoom, and we just have conversations, and people are able to talk with the elders that have practiced the diet for 40, 50 years. I'm on there, other members of the community, and it's just a place where we just get in there, talk about creating our reality, talking about the things that are interesting to us. And so
Beautiful.
yeah.
And, I just want to say something to everyone listening, because, part of my whole new, focus now is not just becoming an infinite human, ascending to the higher frequencies, but, co-creating a new earth together. And a lot of people have been feeling very isolated. And there's a reason for that. I think you're alone because you need to realize, we're all one, and, you're going inward, and you're just detoxing all the stuff from yourself, so you can be in these higher frequencies, so we don't come together like all mangled and codependent and pussy.
Right.
And so, but I do believe that if you want to get on this new earth, if you want to be part of these communities that are coming, I mean, they can even be right where you are, but it's not going to be a place, people are talking about growing their own food and this and that, but you just can't be killing, your friends for food. You can't be, bringing this cult of death, and you're going to have to be eating high frequency foods to be and to come together with those kind of people. Those are the kind of, that's my high vibe tribe. So, prepare yourself now. Now it's a time to prepare yourself. I think so.
Yeah. No, my projection for the future that not everybody likes, but what I see is humanity, the separation from those that are on this path and this level of consciousness, and those that go in the direction of, if you've ever seen any of those TV shows, the gluttony TV shows, the man versus food, and where they're being paid to stuff themselves and kill themselves, and everybody cheers and claps on, that there's going to be a whole area of humanity that goes down that rabbit hole, which leads to death, which leads to deeper, more chronic illnesses, things that we haven't even seen yet. That's insane. And the age of death just keeps getting lower over there. But over here, we're going to have built a whole other reality, a whole that has nothing to do. I mean, we can kind of look over at them like, if you want that, like, it's like, if you want that, but we're going to be over here creating the life culture that will outlive, because whatever they're doing, because see, people think I like to look at whatever people, however you view history and entities, but it appears that there are other hominids that didn't make it. Now, why did it? Because there's this whole movement, the carnivore movement. People want to be like their Neanderthal cousins, which makes absolutely no sense because they didn't make it. They died. They're extinct.
And here it is right out of everyone is getting it. It's a frequency, it's energy. You said it in your words. And, I work a lot with the Christic colonic science, Ashiana Dean, and she actually talks about us having fell. We fell. Neanderthal was not a real timeline. And we were breatharians at that time. We were breatharians. We didn't even have the digestive tract, which is why it causes us so much problems. And we did it, we talked about at the beginning of this episode, the last episode, and we had another a whole episode about the two timelines. Some people call it 3D and 5D, and I call it the KRYSTALA, the Christic, the true life spiral, or the Fibonacci, not chi, not life force spiral. And that spiral, the old earth, the finite earth, you do not want to stay on it because it is actually going into fall. I mean, they are it's like
it is going quicker. It's like you can watch it,
and you don't want to go where they're going. It's not just death, it's death of your soul. It's space dust. You don't want to do that. So and I think everyone's feeling this, so you might as well get on earlier than sooner, but pace yourself. I would say, don't go out and fast,
and that's why because we get into those kind of conversations. I mean, there's members of the community, they aspire to, as we say, stop eating. That's really controversial. Breatharianism. My band, we started with a band called the Breatharian Ensemble. That's how I came into the world with the Mucusless diet, introducing things where it was a group of people that actually practiced Mucusless diet, an all vegetarian band. But we'll get into these kind of conversations as to what were humans, what are we really. And we get into that kind of because it's like all the things in our reality are shadows of what once was, things that we were capable of doing before we degenerated. So something like a telephone, we didn't need that. We could communicate with whoever we wanted, whenever we wanted, wherever they were.
Yes, yeah.
And just all these kinds of things, the traveling, different kinds of just so much that we lost, and
we're getting it back. But the first step is to change it, change it from inside yourself first.
You got to. And we talk about all the yoga practices, all this kind of stuff, and the concept of a time before the more of the circulation humans, the Gumby, like where because some people believe that a lot of the ancient yoga, like half the physical yoga practices, were an effort to try to get back to that supreme flexibility that
yoga
we once
means
had.
yoking yourself to the divine, to God. So that's what it really is about, not physical exercises. But okay, we're out of time. So thank you so much. I had such a just a joyous, wonderful, informative, inspiring, enlightening conversation. And you'll have to come back. Thank you so much. And well, I'll just say this. You see it for a minute because I want to talk to you. If you do want to come to Cincinnati, I'd love to see you. I actually have a booth there. But let me say goodbye to you guys and stand just for a second. Let me wrap up with you. And thank you so much for joining. Ciao for now. I gotta turn off the thing here.